Welcome back everybody, it's DestinysJesus here. I haven't done a video in a very long time, so I'm going to be doing a nice video here on why Queasy and Veno are going to be winning the FNCS Invitational. These guys, honestly, I think are by far the favourites coming into this event. As you can see from the week before the finals of the Invitational, they've gone absolutely crazy. They've won 7 games in a row in the qualifiers, which is completely unheard of. I don't think a team's ever done something like that before, especially on a stat region like EU. And then in the actual finals, they went ahead and won by over 100 points, which is absolutely ridiculous, as you can see here. And they also did something completely unheard of for duos, which is they managed to win on NA East as well. An EU team hasn't won a duo event on NA in a very, very long time. It happened a few times in trios back in the day. However, in terms of actually doing it on extremely high ping versus the top NA teams, which is going to be competing against that invitational, it is completely unheard of. These guys are master the meta. They know all the win conditions they need to do every single game. And the biggest thing, I think, going into invitational is the fact that these guys are uncontested, which, if you look at pretty much every single FNCS finals, the winning team is normally uncontested. I think the only example I can think of is maybe Mongrel Tayson and Micho getting contested on day 2, but they already had a big lead by that point, so it doesn't really count. Alright, let's get straight into this with a couple of these wins from the Opens that you guys can learn from. Now, one of the keys for these guys' success, and the reason they're so consistent, especially in finals lobbies where a lot of teams struggle with Surge, is their mid game is basically always perfectly thought out. So as you can see here, this is a zone that's playing down to the bottom left-hand corner of the map. So what they go ahead and do from Shifty is they go the whole way up towards dead side. They don't actually rotate to one zone straight away. Instead, they rotate down the north-hand side. They go up towards these hills, and then they rotate through. And the reason they're doing this is just because they can play as far to the edge zone as possible. And it means that when it comes to second zone, they're in a good opportunity here. As you can see, there's no one around them. They're basically on dead sides themselves compared to all of these other teams that have gone through the center zone that are really congesting and have a hard rotate next. These guys will basically have dead sides to themselves, and they've already got on Surge because they've been rotating ahead of other teams since they rotate pretty quick. Another one of the biggest reasons I think Veno and Queasy are going to be invitational is they have the confidence to do plays like this. This might not necessarily be something that they can do in invitational, but let's just go ahead and break it down. So they're going ahead and early going over here to fight and 1v2 someone just because they know that they're close to them on the leaderboard. You can see this is the last game of NA East, and they know even on 100 ping for both of them, they can easily just go ahead and run over and win this fight as quick as possible. And it's something that I feel like the Veno and Queasy, one of the only teams that would actually do this on LAN as well, is just take the risk of actually going ahead and starting a mid-game fight. They both know that they're pretty good at fighting. As you can see, Queasy's going in from the back wall there, Veno's doing a nice play to land in the tree, and they instantly knock out Thatch and basically secure themselves first place on NA East as well. That might not seem like the most crazy play, but a lot of teams aren't confident enough to actually go ahead and do something like that. However, these guys definitely are. Another reason why I think Veno and Queasy are going to actually win Invitational is just they're a lot better at the fundamentals in terms of recycling pads than most other teams I see at the moment. So you can see here, Veno gets a nice kill on some padding. They go ahead and pad in very safely, choose a good landing spot. Very nice stuff. However, one thing that most teams are doing is they double pad first moving to save their mats, or they pad once and then actually tarp in and then save their second pad for second moving. But what these guys do is they always recycle at one point during the moving zone. So you can see here, Veno spots a real opportunity to do this. He knows his team is backside, not tarping forward, and they're spraying something on backside. That's just something a team that's going to tarp in wouldn't do. So he pressures them a little bit, forces them into padding, and now immediately realizes, okay, we can recycle that, we can save that pad that Queasy has. Let's go ahead and tank storm and go over to get this pad. And very nicely, actually, is they go ahead and get a kill while doing this. They get even more of a refresh. People that are solos and shambles are always going to be trying to actually recycle pads. So they get that, use a couple of the splashes early, which is definitely a good play, not trying to save your splashes for too late in the game. Get value out of them early while you still have mats to tarp with. And then they go ahead and actually realize, okay, let's just low pad in, save all of our mats. We can actually land in the best spot possible here, and basically dead side, opening side of first moving. So our next pad in the second hit is going to be as good as possible. They get towards dead side, zone pulls towards them, and now they're in a perfect position to pad, maybe even go for height or something in a second here, or actually just go ahead and tarp and then save their pad for and play later on. Alright, now let's get into the main reason that most of you guys came to this video, and it's how do these guys play high ground. And the key thing here is that it's not just one set thing they're doing, there's a whole load of things they're doing throughout the entire endgame. So let's take a look at this whole endgame here. I'm just going to go through it and note out the key points for you guys to pay attention to. Okay, so first things first is they're going to go ahead and pad from dead side, as you can see here. It's a little bit from having dead side earlier. They're still on dead side of 50-50, which is very useful. They refarm a little bit, and they're going to go ahead and pad and scout out height. If you see the height is free to take at this opportunity, they definitely could do so. They're pretty good mats. But you can see they pad and they spot the skins on height. And they go ahead and realize, okay, who's over here on height? What are these skins that they're playing? And as you can see, this is one of the biggest things, one of the biggest skill factors in playing height, in my opinion, at the moment, is height recognition and just knowing who's on height. So they spot these two skins. Maybe they know that it's Rita and Aqua, maybe they don't, but they just know that it's those two skins on height. And they're going to go ahead and drop the whole way down to low ground and have that information in the back of their mind. So you can see here they do have no low ground, box up for a second. They're actually going to go for a very nice refresh here that the Veno does in a second. And this refresh is a difference maker in this game. It's a very nice timing refresh they got on this Russian team right here. They go ahead and pickaxe out the floor. It's a nice swing 3 times on the floor. Gets the full box on the guy. Gets the max damage pump. Gets the body back. And that one refresh there and all the mats they get from it is going to mean they're going to outmat the team on height. It means that they can go for it later on. And let's see how they do that. Okay, so again, they're not really in a position to play for height here, so what do? They go ahead and wait for zone to start pulling. They realize it's pulling max. They're going to go and tank storm here. It's a really good play to do. So they tank really deep in storm to actually get a nice pad and save as many mats as possible with this pad. So now you can see they're padding up. Queasy's got 1,010 builds and Veno's got 143 builds. They could have landed on height here, but instead they decide to go ahead and land and go towards front side and then look up for height and use their mat advantage versus the height team. If you have mat advantage, there's no reason to go for a 50-50 like they could have in that situation. Instead, they look up and spray, and this is where that one refresh comes in clutch. They realize height is now building in wood. Height would never be building in wood if they had hard mats at this point. This is completely wrong for height to do. So they realize they're building wood, and at this point they both realize, okay, we are going to take height here, guaranteed. Let's just keep pressuring him, make sure we get these little bit chip damage in. Queasy's doing a nice play, which is going towards front side and spraying from different angles. So get some nice beams on them. With good Queasy aim, as you can see right there. And then Veno is also going to head and spray from the back. At this point, they realise height is completely shambles. They're building woods. So Queasy just goes the whole way front side, cranks up, very safe crank, so he doesn't get damaged at all. The only real way they lose the opportunity to go for high ground here is when he gets pumped for a lot. So he builds up very safely. He builds up towards front side, starts beaming. And Veno's going to go ahead, and instead of building up from the back, what he does is very smart, is he builds up from in storm, nice and deep, so these guys have no awareness of where he is. Of course, misses his pump, but it's fine because of how well they play this, actually get up above height. And then at this point, this is basically a free win. They've still got a lot of mats between them, and they're into third moving, which is a lot shorter moving zone, so it's not as hard to build it. They basically let Aqua and Reason build the whole of high ground for them, realize who the skins are, and now they're going to use that to close out the game because they have mat advantage at this point. Another one of the reasons I think Veno and Queasy are going to win an Invitational is just because they're so good at closing out games once they have high ground. So many teams in the Invitational are capable of taking height, but not many are as consistent at closing out games as these two are. So first of all, how do you close out a game properly in this current meta? You need to find a refresh once you've taken height at some point, and you can see these guys, they spot a good opportunity. There's two teams fighting on second height. Queasy spraying from one angle, he's most importantly spraying different things, so they're actually able to get these picks here. Veno goes in, gets all the splashes, prioritizes getting as many splashes as possible, and then gets out of storm with all the mats in a second here. And this is where they actually get contested by another very good high ground team, Peterbot and Jumper. So how do they counter these two? Peterbot's a very nice play in the second here. What he's going to go ahead and do is look up from this really nice angle in storm. He's got this little building covering him, and he hits an insane beam on Veno. And at this point, a lot of teams would just sacrifice height, or they'd play bad, they'd panic, they'd start tarping front side, start going upwards. But these guys play it perfectly. They go back into storm, they connect, and they realize the other team is 100% going to come up. Now, whenever a team is coming up like this, if they're building up or they're mantling up, especially when there's two of them doing it at the same time, which obviously a good team is going to do, it's very easy to get caught out if you're on the front side of the tarp. So what Veno does is he goes back in storm multiple times, so the only way that he can get challenged for high ground is going to be from a team in front of him. He's obviously playing the advantage of having the splashes. Again, he gets chopped out in a second here. He's always going back in storm to connect, just like this. Gets a really nice timing on Jumper, where Jumper's holding out his builds. Veno's pieced him up on 100 ping, hits some X, lovely stuff. And then now Queasy realizes, okay, they've got the advantage, they've killed one. He just needs to track where Peterbot is, and Peter's has actually gone down at this point. So now they're in a situation where they have to deal with a 2v2 forming on low ground. A lot of teams will actually end up playing this final situation, and they probably maybe even get it into a top 2. But these guys play this really well. So what they do is they pressure as much as possible. They realize it's coming into 2-2. This other team on low ground is stabilized. They take the time to just pause, heal up, get as much HP as possible, And as soon as they get as much HP as possible, Veno immediately starts aggroing. He doesn't waste time trying to do different things. He immediately goes down, and when he gets that pick there, he goes down straight away, as you can see. So now they're in a situation where it's a 2v2 versus the low ground team. How do you interrupt the team on Magnus? First of all, they've taken the time to both heal up as much as possible. A lot of the times healing up isn't possible, but because there was a few solos back in the Storm, the low ground team obviously has to deal with them, and these guys have still got decent mats. Now, Veno realizes he can't just sit up on height and spray to close this out, especially if the other team has heals. Him and Queasy have no extra whites at this point. Queasy's only 40 HP. They have to go down and interrupt. So Veno does this perfectly. He goes back and drops on an off angle in the second here. Gets a nice pump shot. Drops back in Storm. Catches both of them off and hits some very low HP. Now he's done a big amount of damage. It's kind of forced onto the other team to do a play in the second here, as you can see. So he waits for them to do a play, which is the mantle play. Queasy's ready for it. Gets the pick. And then now closes the game out with a nice shot onto the other player. For all of those shots there at the end, Veno's just simply creating nice off angles, jumping from unexpected places. And as you can see from the other team's crosshair, they weren't ready for Veno jumping down and doing these plays at any point in the game. You can see this guy spraying, Veno's jumping back in Storm, very unexpected, and they get taken care of very quickly. They try to heal up, Veno again jumps down, they're not ready for it. He tries to come out here, not ready for Veno again. And this is all 100 ping. So imagine what Veno can do at Invitational on 0 ping on LAN as well. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. There's some stuff on the masterclass with Veno and Queasy, going back and watching some of their games on there from this season. So if you guys want to check that out and support me, I'd really appreciate it. If not, I should be doing some more of these videos after Invitational. Hopefully the game picks up a little bit and we should have some more content, especially since there's probably going to be a World Cup next year. So I should be doing a lot of stuff for that as well.